Okay, so this was the Snowflake Data Warehouse account which we created. I actually saved the user ID and password, and let's get started. Why it is not? Okay, so now we can sign in. We had a very brief introduction to the visual options or the UI option which we had. For example, okay, so we saw this one. We saw all these options, right? So this is done, and we will now see what else is here um, in this visual UI from the Snowflake Data Warehouse, right? Okay. So now we need to go to admin part, okay? Because we are administrator right now. So we want to understand how the administrator work and how the administrator things work at a very high level, because this is what we want, right? Because yesterday we started discussing about something that there is a client who wants to understand everything about the Snowflake Data Warehouse, right? So this is where we started with. We chose the edition, which edition we should go with, and why a specific edition is required. And then we also saw a region, how we can choose a region. And then a region is a very important factor to be decided based on the client's location. And then we created the Snowflake Data Warehouse account or Snowflake Data Warehouse instance. And then in that instance, we created the very first user ID and password, and that user ID has been a database administrator. Let's move ahead and let's talk about any more important stuff apart from that. Oh, one more thing which we do not know yet is something called as credits. Okay, so now it is very important to understand how we are actually priced in the Snowflake data warehouse, right? The very strange, I mean, the very good thing about the Snowflake data warehouse pricing is that they do not charge you in money. They don't charge you in dollars, in pounds, in any currency, in INR. So it is very important to understand how they actually charge us, right? So, again, if we come to this website, I'll give to you this link which we shared yesterday as well. In this website, we can see how the different pricing options of the Snowflake data warehouse works, right? So this is what we saw yesterday, that we have multiple platforms, we have different regions, and then based on where the client is available, we can choose a specific platform, and then we can choose a specific region. We discussed that we have four different types of edition in the Snowflake data warehouse, which we can choose based on how much features we need from the Snowflake data warehouse. If the need is very basic, if we just need a Snowflake data warehouse for a very basic tasks, we can go with the standard edition. If we need a bit more secure, a bit more feature-rich edition of the Snowflake data warehouse, then we go with enterprise. If we need even more security and more compliant, rich Snowflake data warehouse account, then we will go with the business critical. And finally, we have something called as virtual private Snowflake account, which actually is required. I mean, if there is a company or if there is a client who needs out of the box features from the Snowflake data warehouse or non-standard features which are not yet available in the standard features of the Snowflake data warehouse, then they can contact the Snowflake data warehouse team directly. Okay, so that is why in the VPS we need to talk to Snowflake data warehouse. But if we need standard, enterprise, or business critical, we can just get started. When we were looking at this page, we can look at something like this. So there is something mentioned over here. In the standard, there is $2 per credit. In the enterprise, it is $2, $3 per credit, and business critical is $4 per credit. So we need to understand what credit is. Okay? Before that, let's understand what it is and why it isn't. Okay. So we all might have played in a video game, right? So in that video game, you might have seen that when you play the game and you have a character who is, for example, if we take an example for Subway Surfer, for example, I guess everyone would have at least looked at that game once in your lifetime. We can say that it is a very popular game, and even we have Candy Crushes, right? So Candy Crush and Temple Run is also there. So we have multiple games like this. So I guess everyone of us might have played one of these games, and they are very popular games. So, for example, Temple Run is there, Subway Surfer is there. So, what in that game do we do is that we have a character who runs through a different places and different ways, and he jumps, he slides, he kind of goes through a fire, he collects different weapons, and in that run, during the run, that character first of all fetches something called as coins, right? that person fetches coins. Okay? And those coins you can use to redeem something, right? These are the coins which are getting generated inside of the game, inside the game. Apart from that, what we have seen in the different games is that, let's say, for example, you can also take example for the Need for Speed, right? We have Need for Speed. It is a very nice old game which I used to play in, I mean, it was 10, 12 years, even more than that, 15 years back, I used to play this NFS. Over there, you can have car runs, you have your own car, you can run, you can have your races against multiple um, opponents. And then finally, we also have an option to upgrade. If you might have played this game, we have even in the multiple games, we have an option to upgrade where you want to buy some in-app purchases. There is a term called as in-app purchases. Okay, so what it says is that if you want to upgrade your car, if you want to buy a new tire, if you want to change your car, so for that you need to pay some money. Okay, but you do not pay the money directly. What they tell you is that if, for example, if you want to buy a nitro car, right? You want to upgrade to nitro, for example, then you will have to pay 100 points. And then if you want to, for example, upgrade your tires, for example, or upgrade your engine, again, if you want to have a better type of engine, then you will have to pay, for example, 90 points. Then this is how you can see that you have multiple points based on which you can upgrade your gaming experience, right? Or then you can upgrade your car and you can increase the chances of winning that game. And then you will see one thing that these 100 points, you will click over here. Okay, I want this nitrogen. Then you will click over here and then they will take you to the purchase page, right? Then they will divert you to the payment page. And then they will write something that 100 points, for example, they will mention that 1 point is equals to 1 rupee. 1 point is equals to 1 rupee, right? And then you will understand, okay, how much you actually have to pay, because right now in the game, they talk about points, but then when you come to the payment option, at that time, you need to understand, you come to know the relationship between the points inside of the game and how much real money you have to pay for that, right? So it means straightforward, then you can look at it in the payment option, you will find that, okay, 1 point is equal to 1 rupee. So it means that to have this feature, to have this specific upgrade, I need to pay 100 rupees. And then similarly, if you have to buy this specific type of engine, or for example, you need to buy any specific car, right? Any upgrade car, tires, if you want to upgrade your tires, for example, and then you will have to, for example, pay 70 points. Right from here, oh, so no points, okay. Points, okay. So now over here, you can now understand the relationship between points and rupee. I guess everyone might have seen this thing, right? I guess if you might have played the game, so we all might have seen this thing. Anyone wants to share any experience if they have had? Nobody played this game? My God. Okay, no issues. Yeah, hi, good morning, Priyanka. Hi, good morning, Rajguru. Hi, SR.
Good
Hi,
morning.
Surekha. Yeah, hi, very
Good
good
morning,
morning.
sir.
Yeah, hi, Rajguru. You didn't play this game? In-app purchases?
No, sir, I have
No?
not.
No. Okay, no issues. So you can check this today. Okay, so okay, I'm aware of it. Okay, Miopan, thank you. So thank you. So if in future, so if you just want to try this thing, just download any small video game in your phone, and over there you will see that they actually do not charge the actual money, but they have something called as points, and then you have to purchase points. I guess similar thing is also in the Paytm. In the Paytm, if you might have explored, in the Paytm, there is something called as cashbacks. Okay? When we have cashbacks, so in the cashbacks, you can see how many cashback points you have, right? And in the cashback points, then you can also buy new points. You can buy more points from there. You can say that there is an option to redeem those points, and apart from them, you can also buy more cashback points, right? I can also show it over here. So you can buy those cashback points, and then for those cashback points, for example, you need to apply for any offer which is there in Paytm. Then they will say that to apply in this, you need, for example, 50 cashback points. And then because if you do not have cashback points, then you can purchase those cashback points using real money. So that is where one specific level is created, or some specific thing is created in between the actual payment and the app usage, because of which there is an abstraction layer. Okay, so they are calling it points, and these points are is the payment option inside of the game, but there is a real conversion of that point to real. Okay, so this is the same thing in the Snowflake data warehouse. We will see as well in the data warehouse. This points is called as credits. Okay. Okay, so for example, if you want to use any feature in the Snowflake data warehouse, you do not have to pay INR, you do not have to pay dollar, you do not have to pay pounds, you do not have to pay Canadian dollars. You have to purchase in the Snowflake data warehouse something called as credits. Okay, so this credits is a very important to understand. And then these credits you will buy using actual money, right? So let's see how you can buy credits. Okay. Okay. So now if we come here, you can see that these credits is now converted from the real money. So it says if you, so for example, it varies from different edition for different versions. For example, if we talk about AWS in the USD East North Virginia region, for which we created the Snowflake Data Warehouse, it says that if you are using the standard edition, then one credit is equal to $2, right? So if you want to have some credits, so everything inside of the Snowflake data warehouse is built in terms of credits. If you how much you will be billed for usage of virtual warehouses, how much you will be billed for sending so many queries, so how much you will be billed for serverless queries. Serverless compute engine is also there. We will talk about this. So every feature or every service you are using inside of the Snowflake data warehouse, you will be billed in terms of the credit. So that at the end of the month, the bill you will get from the Snowflake data warehouse, that will not be in terms of USD, INR, EUR, or anything. It will be in terms of credits. Okay, so this is, you can understand that this is the currency which is for the Snowflake data warehouse. This is the currency which Snowflake data warehouse understand, right? So this is very important to understand. Now, how much each credit is? In the video game, we have talked about a specific thing that okay, you have to pay. This is the currency all the time. So 1 rupee is already always equal to 1 point. But in the Snowflake data warehouse, this is not the case. The credits is equal to different amounts. So the credits is equal to rupee, INR, or USD. It is different for each and every edition we are having. For example, if we have a standard edition, then the conversion is less. For example, over here we have seen that for if you are going for the standard edition, then in the standard edition, we have to pay to get one credit inside of the Snowflake data warehouse, we will have to pay $2. Similarly, if we are using enterprise edition, which is of course we have seen it has more features, then to get one credit in the Snowflake data warehouse, we will have to pay $3. Then finally, if we come to business critical, and then it has even more features than the enterprise. So that is why for one credit, we have to pay $4. Okay? Then, for example, if we look over here, what we have just done is that it says that for the standard, and it varies from different cloud providers and different regions. We will see that. For now, we will understand one thing, how it is dependent on the addition of the Snowflake data warehouse, right? So we have three editions. We have the um, standard, we have the business critical, and we have one more which is enterprise. Okay, so enterprise, and business critical. Okay. So these are the major one. We are not going to talk about the last one, which is the virtual private Snowflake, because anyhow we have to talk to sales. There is no fixed pricing. We do not know how much they are going to charge based on the additional requirement or the new requirement which we have. Okay. Okay, so now this is what we have seen, and right now it also depends on the region, right? Which region or which cloud provider we are in, right? So now the example we are looking at it right now is that, first of all, if we are looking over here, we can select the cloud provider and region from here, and then we can see what is the conversion between the credits and the real dollar money. For example, if we go to AWS, in the AWS, we look at the Northern Virginia, for example, this is what was selected before. So I'll mention over here, if we have AWS cloud provider, and we are looking in Northern Virginia, then for the edition standard, to get 1 credit, we will have to pay $2. To get the enterprise, if we are using enterprise edition, then to get 1 credit, we will have to pay $3. And then to get the one credit inside the business critical in the North Virginia AWS cloud provider, we will have to pay $4. Right now, let's check for the other cloud providers and the other regions as well. So if that is really different. So now I just want to see what is the billing in the, for example, in India. Let's check for India. How much is that? There is okay. So we have it in Mumbai. I guess only in Mumbai it is. Yes, only in Mumbai. Okay. So now let's see what is the pricing. Over here, you can see that the pricing data is a bit more, right? So over here, if we look at AWS Mumbai, AWS Mumbai. So over here, the pricing is different. For 1 credit in this standard edition, we will have to pay $2.2. So it is a bit expensive as a comparison to that. If we want to have the enterprise edition, I will have to pay to 1 credit. To get 1 credit, I will have to pay $3.3. And then if I use the business critical, in the business critical to get 1 credit, I will have to pay $4.4. So here you can see that for different region, we might have to pay different amount of money for each and every credit. Okay, so now let's check some more places. So let's check also, for example, what's in Europe, what's going on in Europe, Europe, London. Okay, okay. So now, if you want to have the Snowflake Data Warehouse account in the AWS, same cloud provider in the Europe, then you can see that the pricing is different over here, right? So if we mention AWS London, AWS London, so over here, we can see that the pricing is different. To get 1 credit, we will have to pay $2.7, right? Okay, this is expensive, even more expensive than India. For the enterprise, we will have to pay 4 USD to get 1 credit. And then to get the business critical 1 credit, we will have to pay $5.4. This is the most expensive, right? And let's also see if the pricing is different across. So we will stick to these 3 regions, and then we will try to understand if the billing is same across multiple cloud providers, for example. So now I just want to see what is the pricing across different cloud providers if this is different. So now let's check for the GCP. Okay, so in the GCP, we also have Northern Virginia. Let's check that. Okay, so if we go with GCP, Northern Virginia, okay, so over here, let's see what is the pricing. Okay, it is 234. It is same as what is provided by the AWS as well. Let's check for London now. So for London, if you go to London, over here, the pricing is for GCP in London. Let's see what is the pricing. For London, we have 2.74, 5.4, 2.74, 5.4. It is also same as the AWS. So the pricing, no matter if you go from a different cloud provider, but you will have to pay same. But GCP is not available in India, so that's it. So this is the entire comparison we can have for GCP. Now let's compare for the Azure. Okay, what's going on with the Azure? If we go with Microsoft Azure, and if we go with Northern Virginia very first, so here we can see that the pricing is same, right? So if we look at the Azure and Northern Virginia, the pricing is 2, 3, and 4. Okay, similar to what we had in the AWS and in the GCP. So it doesn't really create any difference if we have different cloud providers. And then let's look at London. Okay, where is okay, here it is. So it is 2.74, 5.4. Okay, it is also same. So if we go with Azure, London, okay, 2.7. So it is, I mean, the billing is same, what we have just observed, 5.4. Okay. And then let's look at the India finally, because the Azure is available in India, but it's available in Pune. Okay, so over here, let's look at for the Azure Pune. Azure Pune. How much is it? 2.2, 3.3, 4.4. 2.2, 3.3, 4.4. Okay. So over here, you can see that the pricing by the AWS and pricing by Azure is very similar. I mean, it is same like that. It could be possible I mean, we are not saying that it is always the case, but most of the time the pricing is same, but it could vary depending on different regions and different cloud providers. Okay? So this is also a deciding factor which region you actually want, right? For example, if your client is sitting somewhere in Europe, right? So you can see that if you have a client in Europe, Europe is kind of in the middle of India and USA, right? So if you might have traveled, or if one of your friend traveled from India to USA, then they can have their flight halt into the Europe, because India to Europe is 8 hours, and then again Europe to USA it's somewhere around 6 to 8 hours, depending on where you want to go into USA. So Europe sits between US and India, right? So if you have a client who is in Europe, and then you have to decide which region is good for them. And for example, London is not an option, for example, right? You have to select between Northern Virginia or Mumbai. So here you can see that the European customer can either go decide the USA region or can go with the Indian region. But here you can see that the pricing is very different. You will say that I will have to pay less if I take the addition of the Northern Virginia, but I will have to pay more if I'm in the Mumbai region because this pricing is more. So this is also a challenge which customers have when they choose a specific region, because if the features are same, why do I have to pay more for that, right? So this is where you can see that this is very, very good to understand how the credits work. And now one question to everyone. Okay, so we created this one, right? Yesterday we created this Snowflake Data Warehouse account. We selected the cloud provider as AWS, and we selected the region as Northern Virginia, and we got something called as and we noticed something, right? So we noticed yesterday that when we create a free trial, we get 30 days of free trial, and it includes $400 of free usage, right? So what it means? Can someone tell me how many credits do we have now? How much credits can I, how much, sorry, I had $400 worth of free usage. So how much credit will I get?
It depends upon the location.
So we have this, we selected this. So this is the region which we selected yesterday. So we created the free trial account, and this is the edition which we created. No, Mupan, this is
100,
because,
100 credits.
sorry.
100 credits.
Yes, 100. Yes, 100. Very good. Oh, sorry. What is your name? I'm sorry, I cannot see your name. You are just showing us.
Yeah, mistake I made. Ankur.
Sorry.
Ankur.
Sorry. I'm not able to hear you.
It's Ankur.
Oh, hey,
ANKUR.
Ankur. Hi, Ankur. Very good morning. Sorry. Okay. So I guess we didn't had any introduction, right? So can you tell me something about yourself? I saw you yesterday as well, but I
Yes.
couldn't get any response from your side. Yeah. So can you please share some detail? Yeah.
I'm BTech graduate in computer science,
Great.
and I don't have any experience in IT industry.
Okay.
New to it, and I have entire experience in immigration industry.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so how did he find 100? Can someone tell me? How did it found? We created the cloud provider. Yesterday we selected that the cloud provider is AWS. So over here we have mentioned the account which we created. It is on AWS Northern Virginia, and the region is, and in the region is Northern Virginia, and the account type or, or the addition of the Snowflake Data Warehouse is business. So let's look at the table. So over here, okay, this is AWS. This is what we created, and this is the addition which we selected. So over here, we can see that for to get one credit, so over here, this is the pricing. One credit is equals to $4. So now if I want to convert this money into credits, I just need to divide this 400 by 4, right? So if I go here, then over here, I will have to this much money I have. And how much is one credit worth? So one credit is worth $4. So if I divide 400 by 4, I get that I get 100 credits, right? Everyone okay? So this is how we can calculate. So you get the money, and then from that money you see how much one credit is worth, and then you can get how much credits you get, right? So over here, if we divide 400 by 4, we can see that we get 100 credits free of cost, for free usage in the Snowflake Data Warehouse account which we created. Right? Are we all good? Tejendra, Murli, Ahmed, Potru, Rupali, Surekha, Pritam, are we all there? Melia,
Yes.
Everything good.
are we all good? Okay.
Yes, we hear.
So this is, yeah, thank you. So this is how you can create, you can know how much credit you want. So now next question, which I want to say, which I want to ask, the next question is that, for example, if I create the Snowflake Data Warehouse account, and I create it in, for example, GCP in London, for example, right? Okay, I always write London. So if I want to create in London and now I want to get 100 credits, then how much money will I have to pay? Okay, I'll repeat my question. For example, if I create my Snowflake database.
540.
Okay, addition, I will go with the, okay, I didn't
So
take the addition.
140
So we are
addition.
going with the, yeah, we have the business. Okay, so if I am sorry, I forgot to mention the addition. Yeah, sorry, who was that? Sorry, I missed that. Yeah, that was the right answer. Who provided the right answer? Sorry, who told 540? Hello.
No,
Yeah,
I didn't.
Rajguru.
I didn't say.
540.
Yes, Rajguru, you are right. Ankur, you are also right. So we will have to pay $540, right? So this is how you can see that based on which edition, which cloud provider, which region you will have to pay, and then you will see this money, and then you can see how much you will have to pay. Okay. So Snowflake Data Warehouse does not understand anything in the payment option. The billing they do it is all in terms of credits. Okay, so understanding the credits is also very, very important. At the end of the day, the bill which you will get, that bill will be in terms of credits. Okay. So for example, if for example, in the electricity department, so you do not understand so for example, you have an electricity bill. So for example, the electricity bill talks about the unit consumption of electricity, right? So you will have the unit consumption. So for example, they will say that during this month you have used 100 units, you have used 200 units, or whatever it is, right? In the bill, you will see your unit consumption. And then on top of that, you will also see that for what is the price of each unit. So you will see that 1 unit is equals to, for each unit, you will have to pay, for example, 10 rupees. Right? It could be any price, right? Then to find out the billing, you will have to multiply the unit consumption into the price of 1 unit, right? So this is how you get the bill amount. So the bill amount in this case will be 200 into 10, which is 2000, right? So the same thing is happening over here. So your unit consumption or the consumption in your Snowflake data warehouse is going to be in terms of credits. You get your bill in terms of credits, not credits. Anyone on Reddit? Anyone uses Reddit? Because I just wrote it accidentally. Anyone on Reddit? I was at one time I was addicted to Reddit. I used to keep on reading more and more and more posts over there. Right, this is a very strange website. Okay, and then it was very difficult for me to come out of it. I installed their app. Okay? That is a very strange website. So over here you can see that similarly, when the bill of the Snowflake data warehouse comes, their consumption is going to be in terms of credits. Then you will see that what is the conversion between the credits and the money using this table, right? So over here, for example, if they say that you are having the AWS region in the North Virginia and you are using business critical, then if, for example, you have consumed 200 credits, then we see that, okay, 1 credit is equal to $4. In this example, 1 credit, we can see 1 credit is equals to $4. And now if we want to actually calculate the bill amount, how much we have to pay, we cannot pay in credits. So we have to understand how we can convert it to a currency. Here we see that 1 credit is equal to $4. So now if you want to calculate the bill amount in dollars, you will have to multiply 200 with 4. And then this is how you can actually calculate the money which you will have to pay, right? 2 4 is 8, so it is going to be $800. Okay. I'm repeating this again and again because this is a very important concept. The virtual warehouses consumption, which we discussed, it is one layer of the Snowflake data warehouse. So the how much money And there is also one more thing apart from virtual warehouses. If I just mention it over here, okay, don't worry. We will just talk about this, why it is working. Okay, so we also have the serverless computing. Okay, so we will talk about this. Okay. This is also very important. Okay, no, but not many people discuss about this, but this is very important. The serverless computing. We will talk about this. Okay. So now, whatever thing or whatever how much compute you are doing in this compute layer, right? Everything is in compute layer. How much virtual warehouses you have, how much virtual warehouses, what is the size of the virtual warehouses, and then based on that, we are built on something called as scripts. Okay, so the compute layer, whether it is virtual warehouses or serverless compute engine, we are built in terms of credits. We will not see dollars, pounds, Indian rupee anywhere. We will just see credits. Okay, so that's good. So once we have understood this thing, now we can go to the next level. Let's again go to the Snowflake Data Warehouse and let's see what else is there. Okay, so now here we are. So we were looking at the admin section. So we want to see what an admin does actually. Okay, so the very first thing, right now, nothing, we have not done anything right now. So over here we can see that in the cost management, we can see something called as compute price per credit. This is what we saw, right? If we are in the North Virginia, we have the AWS account and we have business critical, then this is the compute price per credit, right? So over here you will see that average daily credits. So on a daily basis, we are consuming 0.02 of the credits. Okay, and then these are how much is its equivalent in money. So if you multiply 0.02 with, I guess, 4, so it should be somewhere around, no, it's not that, it's something else. Spend in currency. Okay, this is the currency, this is the credits we have consumed. So if we multiply 0.18 by 4, it should be somewhere around this one. Okay, let's see, we will see that later on. And over here you can also see, so everywhere, so here you can see that top warehouses by costs. So whatever you will see here, whether it is 0.18, whether it is 0.00, so it is all credits. They are not talking about 0.18 dollars. They are talking about 0.18 credit consumption, right? We will see this later on. So I just wanted to show you what it is doing over here. So over here, you can see that everywhere you will see the credit consumption, credit usage, credit everywhere, the breakdown of the credit. So everything in the compute layer is based on the credits. Okay. And then finally, let's come to the virtual warehouses. Let's see what is going on. Okay. So we have got two virtual warehouses. Oops, this is very huge. So over here, let's look at the virtual warehouses. So we want to understand what virtual warehouses are and how do we create them and why they are. We saw that why they are necessary. They are very important because they take the instructions. If you might have attended this detailed session of where we understood the different layers of the Snowflake data warehouse. Over there, we saw that how we get the optimized query, how the transaction manager takes that optimized query from the optimizer. Optimizer also takes help of something called this metadata manager. It checks whether the query is fine, it is valid, and then it is not going to create any security issues. Then that query is taken, and then the optimized query, which is in the form of directed acyclic graph, it is then given to these virtual warehouses, right? So everything which is we want to be processed, every query which we are giving, those queries are going to be executed by the virtual warehouses. So you can see that you can also say the virtual warehouses to be the executors because they execute our queries which is sent by us. Okay. So now let's see what are the virtual warehouses made of, how they are made of, right? So one thing we can also see in our systems is this is how it works. For example, this is your laptop, right? In your laptop, you will have multiple components. For example, so let's look at the multiple layers. So the very first thing which you have is something called as hard disk, right? One second. Oops. So we have something called as hard disk, right? So whenever you go to purchase a computer, you will always see this option that how much is the hard drive, what is the capacity of the hard drive. For example, it could be 1 TB, 500 GB, 500 MB, whatever it is. So we can go with one option, right? So hard drive is there. So whenever you install anything in your machine, those installation files go ahead, right? So in the hard drive might be segregated into C drive, D drive, E drive. Then over here, you can see that if we go to our system and if I go to this PC, you can see that this is the total your hard drive. So your hard drive is then divided into hard disk into is divided into three types. 236 GB is given to one drive, one disk, second disk, and the third disk. So all these three combined are one hard disk. Okay. So my one hard disk is being segregated into three different parts. Okay? And then within that, we have multiple folders. So for example, if we talk about C drive, over here we have folders. Inside of the folders, we have different files. So let me write that as well. So we have a hard drive, hard drive or hard disk. That hard disk is divided into multiple drives, right? So we could have something called a C drive, we have D drive, and then for example, we could also have something called E drive, right? And then inside of each drive, we have multiple folders. If I just take it like this, and if I place it over there, so the C drive is going to have a set of folders, right? And inside those folders, I can have some set of files. So this is how the usual hierarchy works for our systems, right? So we all might have this kind of thing. Again, in the drive, we could have some set of folders, and then within that folders, we could have more folders, and then, right? So similarly, whenever we install something, so we saw that in the MySQL as well. So when we installed MySQL, it created many folders inside of my C drive, right? So this is where we can see that. So when we installed the MySQL, it went to C drive, and then it used post went to the program files. Over here we can see MySQL. So this is how the installation works. Whenever we install something, it goes to any location. By default, it goes to the C drive. So this is how it goes. It creates its own folder, and then it places all the files into the hard disk. Okay, this is very basic, very. And now over here, we have also some more components in our system. There is called as something called as RAM. So every system has RAM. So this is called as random access memory. And then on top of that, we have something called as you can say, there is something called as CPUs, right? So the CPU, we will play with the CPU. Okay. So now how the things happen in our system. So everything, for example, you downloaded a game or you installed a game. So you downloaded it, it went to your downloads folder, and then downloads folder is again in your C drive. And then when you install the game, all the files or all the installation settings which have been defined in that installation file, all those details go into some folder or in your hard drive, right? Everything is stored in your hard drive. You just install the game. You install any application, whatever you install on your system, it goes to your hard disk. Similar to your phone as well, you have some storage space, right? So you might have seen how much storage you have in your smartphone, for example. You could have, again, we have really high storage phones these days. We could have iPhones, for example, if you ever look at that 512 GB, 256 GB, or 1 TB as well. The iPhone Pro Max is going even up to 1 TB storage. So we have a hard drive over where we install something. We have hard disk, and then in the hard disk, all the files, whatever we install, it goes on, right? And then now, for example, the file is installed, the game is installed in your system, right? Or even if the Microsoft Office is installed on your system. And now you want to use this. You want to use this software which you just installed. So for the very first step, which will happen, the required files from your hard disk will be first of all copied into your RAM, right? Whenever you want to execute something in your system, first of all, that thing has to be available in the RAM. We cannot run anything directly in the hard drive. That thing, whatever we want to execute or that we want to run, for example, the game which we downloaded or installed, and that game we will now want to play. We cannot play that game directly from the hard disk. That data or that specific files have to first of all move from the hard disk to RAM because CPU needs to execute those details, right? So those instructions will come from hard disk to RAM, and then all the details will be loaded to RAM, and then the CPU will start doing work. CPU can access only RAM. CPU cannot access the hard disk, right? In this case. Yeah. And then in addition to that, if we just need to provide more details about CPU, CPU also has its own memory, which is called as cache, whatever you want to call it. So we have cache. Okay. So this is the architecture of the laptop which we are using. So the CPU or whatever CPU needs to process, it can access it from RAM. For example, if it needs to execute the game which you are asking for, first of all, that files need to be first of all taken from the hard disk to the RAM, and then now CPU can take those instructions from the RAM and run that game. But there is also one memory or an internal memory which a CPU has, which it can use for its own purposes, right? So, for example, whenever we want to run a game or we run a game multiple times, or if there is something which is repeated again and again, CPU will have to fetch it again and again from RAM. So you can see that CPU can store that thing into the cache. So for example, if you ask CPU to do a repetitive work, for example, every 30 minutes or every even less than that, every 5 minutes, you will have to get some data from the RAM. So instead of taking the data from the RAM, it will save something in its own memory, in its own cache. So the access is very faster. For example, if CPU needs to get something from the RAM, if it takes 1 second, then taking the data from its own cache, it is going to take even one millisecond, right? So if you need to access something from the hard drive, it takes maximum time. Then accessing something from the RAM, it is very minimal. And taking the data from cache is very, very fast forward, right? So that is why. And one more thing which you have to remember is that as the level of accessibility decreases, the size also decreases. So the hard disk is almost 1 TB, and then RAM is used to store the data. And again, RAM is very expensive, and so that is why we have RAM some for around 4 GB, 8 GB. And then as we go up to the cache, which is the fastest accessible memory storage we have in our laptop, we have it very small. It could be 10 KB or even 256 KB, right? So over here, you can see that this is how the architecture of our laptop works. Everyone comfortable with that? Everyone knows this? Anyone has any question around this? Tejendra, Priyanka, Rajguru, Som, Hari, Mehliya, Pritam, MJ,
Yeah, very good.
Mani. Are you good? Are we all aware? Murli, Ahmed, Mehliya, Surekha. Okay, thank you, Ahmed.
Yes.
Okay, so now if once you have understood this, oh, thank you. So now we want to compare it to the Snowflake data warehouse as well. Snowflake data warehouses also have the same architecture, right? So Snowflake data warehouse is also going to have the hard disk. It is also going to have a RAM. It is going to also have the CPU and cache, right? So now you can think of these virtual warehouses to be a combination of CPU and cache, or even you can take RAM with itself as well. Okay, so this combination is your virtual warehouses. So now in your system, CPUs are responsible for processing the data. It has its own cache. It takes instruction from the RAM, and then the similar things happen for the Snowflake data warehouse as well. So now let's compare this architecture to the Snowflake data warehouse. This is our laptop. Okay, and then we want to compare it to the Snowflake data. So I'll create a box in front of it so that we can see how similar it is to the architecture we already have in our laptop as well. Snowflake data warehouse. Okay, so in the data warehouse, we have seen that we have the very bottom layer, which we have seen, it is called as the storage layer, right? Sorry, we have something called a storage layer. We have seen that. So if we look, we have the storage layer. So the storage layer is very, very similar to the hard disk which we have in our system, right? So we will talk about how what is the billing of everything around this. So we have the storage layer, right? So the storage layer, oh, sorry. So the storage layer is going to be similar to the hard drive, right? So whenever we purchase a Snowflake data warehouse account, we have to say how much storage we need based on how much data we need to store in our Snowflake data warehouse. All the data that we have in Snowflake data warehouse, that will go in the storage layer. So whatever we create, it could be any table, any user, we see all that, right? Yesterday we created user ID and password. So the user ID password details will also be stored over there. Any table we create, any view we create, any stored procedure, any table, anything which we create in Snowflake data warehouse, it could be materialized view, any type of activity which you can think of. It could be column level security, row level security, all those things which we create in the Snowflake Data Warehouse, they will be stored centrally in the storage layer of the Snowflake Data Warehouse. Just like in your hard drive. In your hard drive, whatever you install, whatever you download, whatever you do in your system, everything is going to install in, everything is going to be stored in your hard disk. This is one common thing which we have seen in the Snowflake Data Warehouse and your system. And then over here, we have something called as compute layer, right? We have seen that the second layer is the compute layer, which is called as the compute layer because it computes the data or the queries which is coming from the source. And now this compute layer consists of something called as the virtual warehouses. Virtual warehouses. Okay, virtual warehouses. Okay, so these virtual warehouses is a combination of CPU and cache. Okay, somewhere in between we cannot see it, but there is also something some RAM over here, which Snowflake Data Warehouse never mentions. But there is also a layer between the storage layer and the virtual warehouses, right? So the virtual warehouses we can think to be some CPU, a CPU, and then some internal cache associated with it. Okay, so this is the similarity between the Snowflake Data Warehouse and in your system. Just like your system, has someone ever gone with the upgrade of the CPUs? Does someone has multiple CPU in their system? Has someone gone with that option? To get installed one more CPU. We do not have a slot, right? But still, if someone has multiple slots, we do not have multiple slots to have multiple CPUs. We can again go with higher CPUs, but we usually rarely have very less slots for the CPU. We have 4 slots for RAM, but we don't have the multiple slots for the CPUs. But there is a possibility in some laptops, what we can have is that we can have multiple CPUs. So let's discuss that thing as well. So let me remove this and let me kind of get rid of this. And now what do I want to mention is that one system cannot just have one CPU. A system can have multiple CPUs. For example, you can have today some issue with the buttons. Okay. So you can have also multiple CPU. So you can have CPU 1, you can have CPU 2. Oops, once again. You can have CPU 2 and you can also have CPU 3, right? So CPU 1 is there, CPU 2 is there, CPU 3 is there. You might not have heard this, but some laptops have multiple CPUs, okay? Okay, and then each CPU is going to have its own cache, right? It will have its own cache. What do you call it usually? I just want to know what people say. It is cache or cache, because I have seen people speaking multiple things. So can you tell me what do you call this? Okay, can you tell me? Cache. Pritam, Surekha,
Cache memory.
cache,
Cache memory.
cache. Okay. Murli, what do you say to it?
Cache.
Cache. Okay.
I call
Okay,
it
nice.
cache, yeah.
Okay, cache. Okay. Because I have seen multiple people from multiple regions or different countries saying it as differently. I have heard people saying cache, some say called cache. Some people even I have heard some people saying it cache. Okay. So okay. So let's move ahead. So you can see that we can also install multiple CPUs to our system as well. And then each CPUs will be talking to the RAM independently. They have nothing. So this CPU will take the instruction from RAM. This CPU will also take instruction from RAM, and each CPU will have its own cache. Okay. Okay. So similar thing we can also have in the Snowflake Data Warehouse. We are not restricted to use one virtual warehouse. We can have 2 virtual warehouses. We can have 3 virtual warehouses. We can have 4 virtual warehouses. And then each virtual warehouse is going to have its own CPU, its own processing power, and then it is going to have its own cache memory. And everyone will be talking to the RAM and the storage, right? So this is the similarity. We do not have like, this is the similarity. You can really understand how the architecture of your laptop or every machine is similar to what you have. So there is nothing very drastic different. Yeah, there is a difference in how the things work internally, but at the architecture level, things are very similar, as you can see over here, right? So now let's see what a virtual warehouse is and how, I mean, what kind of virtual warehouses, right? Which is already there. So if we look in the Snowflake Data Warehouse, we have seen that we have got 2 virtual warehouses. Similarly, we can create 5 virtual warehouses, 10 virtual warehouses, 15 virtual warehouses. We can have as many warehouses we want. But of course, keeping in mind that each virtual warehouses have a cost associated with it. Okay, until unless you do not do anything with that, that is fine. But um, if you give your queries to a larger virtual warehouse, then you will have to pay more. We will see how you can find a sweet spot of why you need to go with a specific virtual warehouse. Okay? And one more similarity which I want to mention over here. For example, if you might have looked at your CPUs, for example, if we have some system data, let me check if it is there. System information. Okay, where is that? System information or system configuration? I don't know where it is actually. So okay, system data, system information. Okay, hardware and resources. So these are all hardware resources. Okay, so we have. Oh, we look at hardware resources. Conflict sharing. Okay, DMA IO. And then, okay, these are on motherboards. In the motherboards, we should also have the processor. This is the graphical GPU, which we have. And then we should also have a processor. That's fine. And we can also see the memory. So over here, you can see all the details about the system. And if you look at the components over here, let's see if we have, no, it is not there. We have storage. In the storage, you can see drives. Okay, so we have C drive, D drive, E drive. So, and we can also see how much is the storage, memory, everything. And then let me also check if somewhere we should see this the memory, which is the source of processor information. Here it is. So here you can see that in this place as well, you can also see how much is the processor of your system is getting worked on, right? So you can see the information or the performance monitor, how well your system is working. So over here, the processor information is the CPU processor, right? So how much is your CPU working right now in the real time, okay? So the similar thing is also visible in the Snowflake Data Warehouse. You can also see how much is this, instead of processor information, you will see virtual warehouses, which we just saw. And what is the processor time, how much longer processor is being used, how much is the interrupt time, what is the parking status. So all these things we also saw in the Snowflake Data Warehouse, where you can monitor what is going on with the virtual warehouses, right? So we saw it over here, cost management. Then over here we saw the similar thing, how much virtual warehouses have been used, what is going on with the virtual warehouses, what their credit consumption. We can also see the consumption over here. So this consumption, you can think of be very, very similar to this consumption, okay? The processor information, what it is doing right now. And in the disk management, you can see what is going on with the disk. So right now we have 3 folders and 3 disks. So this is where we can also see the disk management. Okay. Okay, so now let's go to the virtual warehouses, and we have these 2 virtual warehouses. And if you want to see more details about these virtual warehouses, so over here we have 2. So these virtual warehouses are created by default. This is a question also from the interview. Someone told me that someone asked me, when we create a Snowflake Data Warehouse account, how many Snowflake Data Warehouse virtual warehouses are there and what are their sizes. So they asked for the details. So it could be useful for you as well to remember that we didn't create it, right? We just created this Snowflake Data Warehouse free trial account, and we didn't create this. So by default, we get these 2 virtual warehouses. One is compute warehouse, and then one is the system dollar Streamlit notebook. Okay, so if I, okay, so this is the next one. So now let's see what is this compute warehouses. If you want to see more details about the compute warehouse, then you can select it and then you can see it over here. Or you can also go to the extreme right and you have these 3 dots, right? So if you click on these 3 dots, you get an option to edit, right? So let's edit the details of the virtual warehouses, right? Let's see what is going on. Okay, I guess I pressed the wrong button again. Okay, so if we go here, we press these 3 buttons and if we edit. Okay, so over here, this is the edit. Is it all good? Shall I go with the bright mode? Is it fine? The dark mode is fine, because we can also go with the bright mode. If this doesn't look
I
good,
think dark mode is good. I'm
dark mode
also
is good. Okay,
yeah.
shall we stick with this? Okay, Rajni, no issues. Everyone good? So I hope nobody is having issues watching this on this screen. Okay, Mepan, thank you. So are we good? Okay, Tejendra, Priyanka, are we good with this? I hope this is not creating any issues to someone else.
Yes.
Okay, are we good? Okay, so thank you. So now we will stick to this this one, okay, the dark mode. Okay, thank you, Mepan. Thank you, everyone. So now let's see what all are the multiple details in the virtual process. So if we click on these three dots, then we can go to edit. There are some properties which are there for the virtual warehouses, right? Let's look at them one by one. So first thing is the name of the virtual warehouses, because we can have multiple virtual warehouses in our system. We need to know, or we need to sometimes call them or give them work. So that is why we need to know their names, what their name is, right? So because we need to assign some work to them. So if you want to say, hey, virtual warehouse, do this, then we need to know their name. So we can give a specific name, but we need to give different names to each and every different virtual warehouses which we have in our Snowflake Data Warehouse. We can say it, for example, the very first one which is created for us, it is called as Compute Virtual Warehouse. You can give any name. So let's see if there is any restriction on the name, right? So if I just remove this, so I can give any name. There is no restriction. They have not mentioned anything. So dollar. So okay, this is not allowed. So as you type something wrong, it contains invalid character. Consider included in double quotes. Not required. So you too cannot have special characters. Okay? So you can have, for example, compute underscore warehouse. This is fine. Or you can give any name, compute underscore demo as well. You can change the name of this one. Okay. Okay, so this is the virtual warehouse name. And then you can also provide a comment. For example, the comment will tell you for whom it is creating or what purpose it is creating. Or for example, we can add a comment saying that this is a demo virtual warehouse. We can give a comment. The comment is not mandatory. Comments are very, very optional. If you do not provide it, that is also fine. And you can anytime change the name of a virtual warehouse and the description of the virtual warehouse. This is very nice thing. We usually, in whatever we create in the cloud services, we usually do not get an option to edit the name of the virtual any component. But it is a very great feature which we have. We can change the name of the virtual warehouse anytime we want. We can change the description of the virtual warehouse anytime. Then we have something called as type and the size associated with virtual warehouse. We have two types of virtual warehouses. One is the standard virtual warehouses, which is good for handling a lot of different details. But if we want to run Snowpark optimized queries, which need a lot of memory, which need a lot of high processing power, then we need to go with the Snowpark optimized. But over here, we can also see in the description that the standard warehouses can be used for the most of the workloads, including Snowpark. If you want to do your SQL related work, if you want to do your data analysis work, if you want to do any admin related activities, if your queries are good, even if you are doing basic Snowpark activities, then we are good with the standard type of virtual warehouses. But if you have very, very compute intensive resource, for example, you are running a program which is very big, it requires a lot of memory, it requires a lot of processing power, then only then you need to consider for the Snowpark optimized. They are optimized virtual warehouses which offer a larger memory and larger cache. So here you can see that which offers a larger memory and cache. Okay. So here they are mentioned the larger memory and cache. So over here you can see that this is how you can see this going on. Okay. Okay, so over here, if you need a larger memory, for example, if you need larger memory, if you need larger cache, and larger CPU, larger processing power, then you can go with the Snowpark optimized. But this is very, very rare condition. The standard type of virtual warehouses can handle most of the load. Okay? I have never seen going specifically with the Snowpark optimized virtual. Okay. Now, these virtual warehouses comes in terms of sizes. Okay, these sizes might look like the sizes we have in the clouds. So let's understand what is going on. So if we come here, we have seen that we have multiple CPUs. For example, I have installed 3 CPUs in my laptop. So we have different sizes of CPUs as well, different based on how much they can process. We could have an i3 processor, we could have an i7 processor, we could have an i9 processor. If you talk about Intel, Intel Core, it is not going to be relevant for AMDs. But if we have an Intel processor, we have broadly, we also have i5. I don't know which i7 is there, but we have i5. I hope I'm not confusing the Intel processor with BMW car names. We also have i3, i9, BMW car names. Okay. So for example, we have got i3 we have got i5 processor and we have got i9 processor. Okay, so these names correspond to, as the name increases, as the number increases, you will see that the processing power of the CPU also increases. And again, it is expensive. i3 is cheapest, relatively cheapest of all these three, and then i5 is more expensive than i3, and then i9 is the flagship processor which we have from the Intel. Okay, and it processes a lot of memory. As the number increases, the processing power, the cache, the memory which they use, everything increases as per their uh, properties. Okay. Similarly, the virtual warehouses, because virtual warehouses is also CPU, right? It is also a combination of CPU and cache. Then the virtual warehouse should also have different sizes. It is something saying that no one size fits all. There is something which is very popular. We hear this every day, no one size fits all. I mean, we all do not wear same size of clothes. We do not have the same need for this same laptop sizes. We do not have the same requirement for the same size of cars, right? So we need options, right? Everyone need options. So we also have options when we create the virtual warehouses. And these options are the sizes of virtual warehouses. So the virtual warehouses, so the virtual, oh, sorry, virtual, but the virtual warehouses come in different sizes. So now let's look at the different sizes of virtual warehouse. We have something called as extra small, we have small, medium, large, extra large, 2x large, 3x large, 4x large, 5x large, and the maximum one is the 6x. Over here, in front of the size of the virtual warehouse, we see something called as some credits per hour. Over here, extra small, 1 credit per hour, for small, 2 credit per hour, medium, 4 credits per hour. So let's understand what is going on. Okay, so I have a very short PPT for that. So if I yes, it is, so I created it some time back. Okay, so over here, we just want to understand about the sizes of the virtual warehouse. So over here, we can see that we have the virtual warehouses sizes start from extra. We cannot have the virtual warehouse which is smaller than the extra. Right? This is the smallest size of virtual warehouse. And as the size of the virtual warehouse increases, the computational power of the virtual warehouse is also increases. And as the size of the virtual warehouse increases, you will have to pay more credits. So for example, if you look at the extra small, in the extra small, it is saying for that for 1 hour of usage for this extra small size of virtual warehouse, we will have to pay 1 credit. If we keep on, for example, what this means is that if we keep on sending queries to the virtual warehouses for 1 hour, we will have to pay 1 credit. And for example, if we have small size of virtual warehouses, which is more compute intensive, which has more cache or more processing power than the small size of virtual warehouses, for using this small size of virtual warehouse, we will have to, if we use it for 1 hour continuously, then we will have to pay 2 credits. And in the end one, you can see that the largest of the virtual warehouse is 6x large. And then if you use this for 1 hour, you will have to pay 512. Okay. So you can see that it is generally available in Amazon Web Services regions and in preview in US format and Azure. If you need a very high compute intensive power, a very huge memory and a very good cache, then only we need to go with SSL large. But in the organization, I have not seen someone going beyond 2x large. Okay? So this is what, but yeah, I have seen someone creating LLMs and those kind of thing against the 3x large, but this is very rare. Only LLM people use the 3x large. Apart from that, I have seen people who are using data analysis or the kind of very basic analysis on their data. They are good with up to 2S. So over here, this is how much. So you can see that, right? The billing of everything goes in the terms of credits. So we know what credits are. So now we can really understand based on the cloud provider and based on the region, how much money we have to pay, right? So here over here, now you can very well do the calculation. You know how to do the maths, how to get the usage in dollars from the credits. Okay? So and over here we can see these credits divided by second. So so over here in if you divide 1 by 3600, so this is per hour. If you want to see how much credits we have to pay for 1 second, You will have to divide 1 by 3600 because in 1 hour we have 3600 seconds, 60 minutes and 60 seconds, 16 to 60, 3600. So if we divide 1 by 3600, it should be equal to this. If we divide 2 by 3600, this is all the credits per second. Okay. Okay. And now let's talk about the different thing. Okay. And now before that, we have to see there is a gap. Okay. So now this is something, for example, if we consider the credits of an extra small virtual warehouse. So this is interesting. So let's discuss about this. So the billing is not very straightforward for the virtual warehouses. So now we want to talk about how the billing of the virtual warehouses. So the billing is not always per second. So this is something different. Okay. So now let's consider that we have a virtual warehouse. For example, the size of the virtual warehouse, any size. Let's take the reference of the previous lecture. So for example, if we have a small size of virtual warehouse, so we created a small size of virtual warehouse, and the billing of this virtual warehouse is 2 credits. Okay. And the billing, okay. Oh, we can have it over. Billing is 2 credits per hour. And we have seen we also converted it to seconds. So let's see what is the billing per second. So it is 0.0006, 0.006, and this is the billing per second. So now you might be thinking that, okay, if I use my virtual warehouse for 1 second, then I will have to pay this much credit. So this is credit, by the way. So we got credits per second. This is credit. Okay. So we can mention this instead of billing. I just say credits per second. Okay. So now you might think, okay, if I use my virtual warehouse for 10 seconds, I will have to multiply with 10. If I use it for 5 seconds, I will have to multiply with 5. If I use it for 1 minute, then I will have to multiply it with 10. If I use it for 1 minute, I will have to multiply with 60. But this is not that straightforward. The billing of the virtual warehouse is a bit different based on how long you use your virtual. Okay, so this is how it goes. If you use your virtual warehouse for the very first 60 seconds, you will have to pay for the amount, whatever it is for 1 minute. Okay, so the minimum billing of the virtual warehouse is 1 minute. Okay. What it means, what this cat says, is that for the very first minute you are using your virtual warehouse, if you send your queries for 1 second, you will have to pay for 1 minute. If you use your virtual warehouse for 10 seconds, even if I use for 1 second, I will have to pay for 1 minute. If you use your virtual warehouse for 10 seconds, you will still have to pay for 1 minute. Right? So 1 minute is the minimum billing. Even if you use it for 55 seconds, you will have to pay for 1. Right? And then when you use it for 1 minute, of course, you will have to pay for 1. But once you cross 1 minute, the billing starts for per second. So now, for example, if you use, so over here, I'll just say 60 seconds. For 60 seconds, you will have to pay for 1 minute. And from once you cross 1 minute boundary, once you use your virtual warehouses for 61st second, then the billing starts for the seconds purpose, right? So now you will have to pay for 61 seconds. So over here, it was all 60 seconds. 60 second, while this. Okay. So over here, this is something which we really need to understand, that the minimum billing of the virtual warehouse is 1 minute. No matter if you use it under 1 minute or equal to 1 minute, you will have to pay for 1 minute only. But once you cross your 1 minute barrier, for example, if you for the next second onwards, for the 62 seconds, you will have to pay for 62 seconds. Now the billing will be switched over to the second. If you use it for example, 2 minutes, for example, 120 seconds, then you will have to pay that much exactly. Okay. So this is how the billing works. So now let's look at as an example. So over here, we have an example over here. So these are the credits for the extra small. Okay, so you can see that for the very first 60 seconds. So if you look at the extra small, so if the extra small is 0.003. Okay, so if you want to get the billing for 1 minute, this is for billings per second. So we have to multiply 0.003 by 60. So to get what is the billing for the 1 minute, so we have 0.003. And if we multiply by 60, we will get the billing of 1 minute. So it is somewhere around 0.1. Okay. So if we look over here, so here you can see that it is 0. What was that? 0.1. One sec. I think I made some mistake. I guess there was one more zero. Zero. It is 0.00. It's not 0.003, it's about 0.0003. Okay. So if you want to get the billing for 1 minute, you will have to multiply 60. And this is the final thing now, it is right. So now over here we can see that this is the credits consumption for the very first 60 seconds. So no matter if I use it between, even if I use for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds, 50 seconds, 55 seconds, 59 seconds, I will have to pay for 1 minute billing. But then once I cross the 60-second barrier, here actually this is not the correct way because it is not showing the complete digits. So if I will have to pay for 61st second, then I will have to add 0.0003 to this. This is the billing for your 61st second. And then for the next second again, if you use it for one more second, you need to have 0.0003. This is the billing for 62 minutes. Then here you can see that how the billing actually works. So for each and every virtual warehouse, you will see that the credit consumption for 1 minute for the very first minute is going to be the same, no matter how much you use it. Then the billing starts taking the shape of per second as you cross 60 seconds, right? So for 1 hour, of course, this is going to be equal to whatever it's here. Okay. Okay, so let's go back to the virtual warehouse. This is where you can decide the size of the virtual warehouse, and then you can also see the billing in front of it. So if it gets changed, it might also get changed with the time, maybe in the future. But just in case if you want to refer to, so that is why they have mentioned in front of it. So just to avoid any confusions, so over here we can see that we have an extra small virtual warehouse. We have a small size of virtual warehouse. So if you want to change the virtual warehouse size, you can change it anytime. So what we have learned so far, where is the exit? So what we have learned so far, so the name of the virtual warehouse can be changed anytime. Okay. And one more have we have seen that the description of the virtual warehouse can be changed anytime. Can be changed anytime. And then on top of that, we have seen that the type of the virtual warehouse can also be changed anytime. We can change this property anytime we want. Type of the virtual warehouse. We have got two types of virtual warehouses, standard and Snowflake optimized, but we can change the type of virtual warehouse anytime. Okay. Type of virtual warehouse can be changed anytime. And on top of that, we can also change the size of the virtual warehouse anytime. So this is the beauty. So the size of the virtual warehouse can be changed anytime. Okay. Of course, if we change the type or the size of the virtual warehouse, then correspondingly the billing will also change, right? From the next query which will send. Okay. And then how you can see that how difficult it was to do it in our system. So for example, if we want to change the size of the virtual warehouse, it is 1 second work. But if you want to change the size of the CPU which you have in your laptop, you will have to go outside. You will have to check with the vendors how many CPUs are there. Or for example, if you have made your mind, you want to go from i3 to i9, you will have to check that, okay, if there are vendors, multiple vendors could be offering multiple prices of the same chip as well. So someone might be giving it, for example, 30,000 INR. Someone might be giving it. It is not that cheap. I know. Now, for example, we can say that it is 50,000. So i5, if I remember, it is somewhere around 50,000. So someone might be selling it for 50,000. Someone might be saying that, okay, you have the discount on this specific bank card, so you might have to pay 48,000. So all these things, then you will take it to a repair shop, you will buy the CPU, and then you can get it upgraded. But all this mess can be ignored in the Snowflake Data Warehouse. The size of the virtual warehouse can be changed anytime, and you can change it anytime. And it is not like once you have decided, you have decided. If tomorrow you need smaller size of virtual warehouse, you can make it small size. And if you want to make it of the larger size, you can also make that. Okay. Okay. So let's create a very nice, interesting diagram, which we want. Okay, so for example, so the last thing which we want to discuss, so we will continue this tomorrow. So, but before that, before ending today's session, we want to discuss. So we have seen that the compute layer creates optimized queries and it creates something called as directed acyclic graph. Okay. Then these compute layer, oh sorry, not computer, but the cloud services. Sorry, my bad. So the computes, the cloud services layer, okay, we have already written there. So we have these three layers. So now let's create a bit of a gap between the cloud services layer, the virtual warehouse layer, and this one. Okay. Because we need to understand. So this is going to be the compute layer. I can mention anywhere. I can even mention for compute layer, and this layer consists of virtual warehouses. And then finally, we have something called as a storage layer. Okay. So the storage layer is going to store everything in one place. The storage layer. Okay. Okay. And then we have discussed that the compute layer may consist of one virtual warehouse or multiple virtual warehouses. So over here, let's create two virtual warehouses. Let's consider that we have for two virtual warehouses. So for example, this is going to be the virtual warehouse one, and this virtual warehouse is going to have its own gadget. Okay, let me make it like this. So this virtual warehouse is this one, for example, and this virtual warehouse has its own, for example, this is virtual warehouse one. So just zooming in into what we discussed. So for example, the name of this virtual warehouse, compute underscore warehouse, and this is the name of the virtual warehouse. And then over here, we'll just mention that it has its own cache. It has its own cache. And then similarly, for example, we also have one more virtual warehouse. We can have more virtual warehouse. So let's consider the virtual warehouse, the architecture which we already have in our Snowflake Data Warehouse trial account. So it is also going to have cache. Let's look at the name. So this is system dollar something. So let's confirm. So what is the second virtual warehouse? Select. So the system dollar streamlit, system dollar streamlit, streamlit, system dot streamlit underscore notebooks underscore notebook book underscore. So this is pretty much more. I mentioned it here so that it comes in front of your face all the time. Okay. So this is what we have right now. Okay. Okay. So we know that the cloud services layer is responsible for accepting the query. So then you will have someone connected to the virtual warehouse. So everyone connects to the browser. So this is going to the browser. So now you can see how all these things are working together. So you have a browser. Okay. Through the browser, we will be connecting to the Snowflake Data Warehouse account. So this is our Snowflake Data Warehouse instance. Okay, let me take it away so we can also mention it over here. So the browser will be connecting to the Snowflake Data Warehouse, right? And this is what we have seen in the very first thing is that this is this is not the only way. This is the best way to connect to the Snowflake Data Warehouse. We will also see how we can connect to the Snowflake Data Warehouse through Snow CLI. Okay, Snow SQL. Okay, not Snow CLI. Okay, so over here, this is how we can connect it. This is where we send our queries. So now we have seen that the cloud services layer takes the request from the user, and in response to that, it creates something called as DAGs, right? So now the cloud services layer is going to have a pipeline being connected to all each and every virtual. So there is a pipeline. So we cannot see it, we cannot query it, but every connection, every cloud service layer, this is the way how your cloud service layer talk to the virtual warehouses, right? So whatever, so this is called as the, we will see this what this is called, but this is actually called as the warehouse pipeline, right, where the queries are added. So now if there is a cloud, if you send a query, you send a query to the cloud service layer, and then the cloud service layer creates something called as query plan, query ID, okay? Any query which we have seen that whenever the optimizer is possible or it is responsible for creating the optimized query, right? And then that optimized query, which is created by the cloud service layer, it is added to this pipeline, right? So it will keep on adding this query, optimized query, query one, query 2, for example, query 3. So all the query which are coming from the users, we can decide as a user which virtual warehouse we want to send a query. Right? It can also be decided by the Snowflake Data Warehouse itself. But for example, if I am sending 3 queries from here to the virtual warehouses, each query will be optimized. A query plan will be created, and then it will be added to the pipeline of the virtual warehouse. Okay? So this is very, very important to understand. And this is one thing which you will see, which we need to understand before going into this. Okay. So over here, if we again go to the edit, right? So over here, let me show you where you can actually see that we have something called as multi-scale. Okay, multi-scale is not there. We have something called as, we will discuss that. So in
I
the
have a
deep dive.
doubt.
Yeah, sure, sure.
See, like if we have created this entire warehouse and everything,
Yeah.
suppose if we at a particular location, right? But at the same
Sorry.
location or even at a different, we have created a particular warehouse at a particular location
Right.
with a particular billing cycle.
Mhm.
Now with this build cycle, we have an exact specification for the system configuration we would be allotted.
Yes.
So suppose if we change the billing cycle, the entire
Mhm.
configuration will change, right?
If we change the billing cycle, then it has, their billing cycle has nothing to do with the architecture which you have.
I mean, the type of RAM, CPU, everything which we are allocated will change, right?
If your billing cycle will change, your billing cycle has nothing to do with these hardware components which you have. Your billing cycle, you are saying that you want to build on every 15th or you want to build on every 20th, for example, and then you change it from 15th to 20th. Then your hardware is not going to change. You just want to, you are saying that, for example, the electricity bills which you have, before you were getting your electricity bill every 30 days. Now you're saying that I want to have my electricity bill after 45 days. Your billing cycle is not going to impact your hardware which you have at the time. Your house is not going.
See,
I mean, I
what I
hope.
mean to say is, see, as I go, the billing cycle basically means even like people using a small scale, business critical and enterprise level.
Okay, that we cannot change. That once we have decided, we cannot change. Those things are going to be constant. The region which you have still decided, the type of virtual warehouse. So all these are constants, right? So we cannot change it. We cannot change these details.
And this one,
We
so
cannot change
suppose
it.
we wish to change. In case we wish
Hmm.
to change it,
If you
in
wish,
that scenario, in that scenario, we just need to create an entire new warehouse and
it
migrate
will be,
everything from
yes.
one
Then
location.
yeah, then you will have to create a new Snowflake Data Warehouse account with the new region and the new edition you want. Then you will have to do migrate everything. Maybe if you want to have the exact copy, then you might consider migrating everything from the existing virtual warehouse instance to the new instance. So that is the only option. Right? So that is a very good question. So maybe others might not be having this issue. So we cannot change these details. We cannot change the region. We cannot change the cloud provider. We cannot change the addition of the Snowflake data warehouse once we have decided. We cannot change this, right? We can only change the components of your Snowflake data warehouse account. But we will see this in the future lectures. What is the solution to that? But just for your curiosity, I'm just mentioning over here, if you want to consider that, then you might need to migrate all the data from your storage layer to the new Snowflake data warehouse account before decommissioning this, right? If that is what you, is it fine? I guess this is what you're asking.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so that is something else that we will see later on, but right now we just want to stick to, and thank you for your question. Actually, that was a very nice question. Maybe someone else might be having a doubt, but still we need to clarify again. We cannot change these details. We cannot change this. This dedicated URL is kind of, you can say that it is stuck to these details. We cannot change this. The only things which we can change the virtual warehouses, the size of virtual warehouses, number of virtual warehouses, and we can increase or decrease the storage level. But apart from that, at the entire Snowflake data warehouse account level, we cannot change these details. So tomorrow we will keep talking about the virtual warehouses, how the virtual warehouses work, how this pipeline works. This pipeline is actually associated to, there's a property in the virtual warehouses for which we need to understand. We have something called a scaling policies. So not resume, if you go to edit, there is something called as, there is we went multi-cluster. So if you click this one, then you will see the scaling policy, maximum cluster, minimum cluster scaling policy. So what we just mentioned, it is very, this for to understand this multi-cluster warehouse, we need to understand this concept. Okay, so every query which is sent by the user first of all, it is optimized by the cloud services layer. Then that query, that optimized query is added to this pipeline, which is associated with the virtual warehouse. So over here, you can see it is kind of a queue, which you can see, right? So for example, if queue query one comes first in the queue, then it will be added first. It is kind of, you can say that this is a FIFO query, FIFO queue, okay, just in case if you know this one. So FIFO stands for first in, first out. Which query first came to the Snowflake Data Warehouse, that will be answered first. Which query comes second, that will be answered second. And the query which comes third, that will be answered third. So it is a first in, first out. So whichever comes first, that will be given to the virtual warehouse. So we will see all these details. It is going to be very interesting lecture, just like today. And to tomorrow, we will see all the complex details around the virtual warehouses. So please be ready with your questions. If you have any questions, do please read this video, create your Snowflake Data Warehouse file account so that tomorrow we all are on the same. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed today's session. If someone has any questions, so please let me know. And this video again, this video is also going to be in the Snowflake in the Data Vision YouTube channel, which we showed you, and you can do your revisions from there because over there you can have the recorded sessions. In case if you have missed someone, if this was your first session, yeah, hi, I can see Siddhi Jyoti. I guess this was your very first session. So this is for you as well. Hey, Siddhi Jyoti. Siddhi Jyoti, can you hear me? Okay, so this is for you as well. So anyone and same for Money as well. So Money, I would highly recommend you to go through the previous recorded videos on the YouTube and try creating your Snowflake Data Warehouse account, and then so that tomorrow it is very easy to understand. Okay, so it is going to be very interesting if we can also create the virtual warehouse together so that we all know what is going on. And if you come across anything different, we can also see that. Okay. So that is it for today. Thank you so much.